Welcome to my day one quick guide for the brand new duo boss Yama. Now this is a day one guide, so in no way is this going to be highlighting the most efficient way to kill it or even possibly the best gear, because nobody really knows what that is just yet. But at this point I have a pretty good understanding of most of the base mechanics and attacks. So in hopefully a quick short video I'll be able to give you a decent rundown on how you can potentially get some of your first kills, or at least have a decent understanding of how the boss fight works. First up for the gear, I have been maining the Shadow along with full Ancestral. Easily you can replace this Torva Helm with an Ancestral hat, I just haven't because I don't have one currently. Then you're also going to want at least one switch, the most common one being the melee switch is what I've been using. You'll see what phase you need that on later in this video. And then another item you'll want is the Purging Staff, using its special on some of the cores that spawn later in one of the boss fight stages. It also seems to be one of the best items available to use for that scenario. I also use a BGS spec once at the very beginning of the kill, not necessary, but it has been pretty useful. You can also sacrifice some additional food once you get the boss down to bring some additional melee switches to do faster DPS, but just for the sake of consistently getting kills, this is the route I've been going with a little bit more food in case I do screw up. Now I am on the Arceus spellbook, and you do use the Dark Demon Bane along with you can use Thralls, even though I do consistently forget to cast them in. But the other spell that's really very useful along with the Purging Staff is the Mark of Darkness. You're going to want to make sure you have rooms for Mark of Darkness along with the Dark Demon Bane. But from a gear standpoint, I think that's pretty much it. You also do want a Sandfew or an Antidote because he does poison you similar to Zami, hitting you massive stacks of at least like 20 damage. But with the gear out of the way, he is located over here in the Chasm of Fire. Let's go ahead and jump into the boss and how most of the basic mechanics work. Now to kick things off, one of you in your duo is going to want to be protecting from melee until the first special attack happens. Now as you can see, there are a bunch of different spots on the grounds. These are called glyphs. Some of them are orange/red and the other ones are black/purple. Now these are very important in terms of how the boss mechanics are going to work. But before we get there, real quick, to kick things off, one of you is going to be being aggroed until the first special attack, so that person should be using Protect from melee. Other than that, go ahead and dump one of your specs to lower the boss's defense. You'll see here I use both of my Bando specs, and that is a mistake. You do want at least 25% of your special attack bar so that you can use the Purging Staff spec later in the fight. Otherwise, as you can see, we just got hit with some black smoke, and that is Yama's range attack. If you are fighting at a distance, or whichever one of you isn't being aggroed by melee, you want to be using range at this point in the fight. When he uses his range attack, he'll snap his fingers, and you'll see a little black cloud appear around you right before you get hit. You can flick your prayer in this scenario if you don't have the correct one on. And the other attack is like an orange/red flame ball, and that is the magic attack. But if we continue on here in a couple seconds, there you go, you'll see a charging attack. I'll let it play through, where just around his base there is a little orange circle he'll appear, and he'll cast it all the way to the top where he'll throw out a spell, and that's where these glyphs come into effect. Both of you can step on one of the glyphs, only one of which will activate, so you don't lose both of them. Realistically, depending on where you're at in the fight, it is better for both you and your teammate to try to get to every glyph possible. That way you can minimize all damage if somebody does happen to misclick or screw up. But the way this works, since it was an orange attack, which is the magic one, you step on one of the orange glyphs, and as long as you step on it prior to getting hit, you will reduce all damage. Now, if you don't step on it in time, you will take somewhere between like a 40 to 50 something. A very important and probably one of the most crucial mechanics in this entire boss fight. Now, as you can see, he is still using melee for my other teammate, but since he just used the magic glyph, for the next few attacks, he is going to be using his magic space attack. As you can see, there is a little orange flame right behind my magic prayer, and as long as I have my mage pray up, I will not be taking anything other than maybe a few chip damage. Now, the next special attack is going to be this flame wall, and this one's pretty easy in terms of just a base mechanic. All you have to do is stand a couple tiles away and step and run through it to avoid all damage. If it does happen to hit you or you path through it incorrectly in terms of timing, it will take off your prayer. Now, as just a basic mechanic, this special isn't too difficult. What makes it difficult is when everything starts happening at one time, because as you'll see right here, just as the flame wall spawns and I'm focusing on getting ready to step through it, He uses the dark version of that summon attack, meaning we will need to step on one of these black or purple glyphs in order to take away the damage. But because I'm worrying about this flame wall, I don't make it over in time, and we take a 38 and 49. Now, since he just used the black or purple version, now you'll want to protect from range. As you can see, a little black smoke around right before you get hit with a range attack. Now, these little flame appear on the ground. These are similar to like a wave mechanic from the basic Yama fight in Kingdom Divided, or something like the Zebak room, where all you have to do is just don't stand in line. And even right there, while I was just talking, he used another one of his summon attacks. It will alternate colors, so he'll go orange and then he'll go purple repetitively. It will not be back-to-back of any one specific color. Otherwise, at all times, you're just going to keep an eye on him, keep an eye on what special he's continuing to use. Now, here's the first sight we see of the little void flares on the ground. This is where your Purging Staff comes in handy. You're going to want to cast your Mark of Darkness and then use your special attack with the Purging Staff in order to 2-hit each of them. As you can see, there's a little yellow bar underneath of them. If you don't kill them prior to that yellow bar completely filling, it will heal Yama a ton of health, along with dealing all of that damage back to you. And now for our next special, I'm sure it's getting quite repetitive that there is plenty of varying different mechanics throughout this fight, but at this point you've seen almost all of them in their entirety. They just continuously repeat and get a little bit faster outside of just a couple, maybe one or two more. Now, as you just saw, he said, "Be gone" above his head, and he drops you into a portal. After you get teleported onto the little island, there are a bunch of stones that you want to start jumping across. You can do this pretty quickly. And on the other side, he will be throwing magic balls, and similar to something like the Hallowed Sepulchre, you just jump across the stones and avoid getting hit by any of the attacks. Now, here is where your melee combat comes in handy. As you can see above his head, he's protecting from both magic and range. So as soon as you hit him once with the melee, and he'll switch his prayers, and you just have to constantly alternate back and forth between your mage and melee weapons. And the only other thing you have to worry about is dodging this little flame wall. As you can see, there's a shadow on the ground. He'll throw it out, and it'll hit wherever you last stood. It casts pretty slow, so it's very easy to avoid. In this point, you do max damage, and you get a little window right here where you can eat up to full during this mechanic, and that is something I would recommend. Otherwise, once you get teleported back out, just continue using the same attacks you have been. Now, one thing Yama does do is have a little dialogue above his head that will give you insight on what attack's coming next. One of which is similar to next, where I believe he says Umber, and that is the black/purple variant of this special. In this scenario, he's going to spawn a big orange ball above your teammate or above yourself, and whichever person doesn't have the ball above them, you are going to want to step on the orange glyph. But as you'll notice right here, he says Colabian spawns above my teammate, and unfortunately, I click on the wrong glyph, meaning he takes a 95 to the dome. Because at that point, neither of us were ready for that mechanic. And now, as you see just here, this is the Umbra variation of that exact same attack. And this is the one where you'll want to step on the purple or black glyph in order to avoid taking this damage. As you can see, my teammate did, so we took a 0. Continue dodging the flame walls to the best of your ability, and then just pay attention to whatever base attack he's attacking you with. Right there, he just switched to the black smoke, which is range. The flames spawn on the ground, so you pay attention to where those are crossing. And then once again, Colabi above his head, which now is the orange glyph to avoid taking a 90 to the dome like the last time. Switch to your Purging Staff for the Void Flares. And we hit the 800 health milestone, so we got summoned back into the portal. As you can see, I only hit 25s with my Ember Light here, where if I had a full melee switch, I would hit somewhere in the 50s or 60s. Otherwise, now you are on the final stage, and this is where things get a little more difficult. The first one is this triple attack. Now, the attack itself isn't all that difficult, but when it starts happening with the flame walls, it can get very chaotic. Now, the easiest way in order to just completely avoid taking any damage, wherever these 3 splats hit in the center, it will summon like a Whisperer attack, where from each end it will spawn a little triangle effect. Now, all you have to do is take one step to the outside. Where I'm currently standing, it would be to the east or west of this first triple. And as you can see, it's going to spawn a little Whisperer mechanic where it will take all damage out from a triangle effect into that center spot. Now the next one spawns at a diagonal. The exact same things applies. Take one step out to the east or west, except at this point it would be a diagonal tile because it's coming in on a diagonal. And then every single time it happens, it will come in pairs of threes, and once again, you will be able to take a step out, this time just being north or south. When that special attack happens, you do only have to take one step in each direction, although once you'll see here, it starts spawning with a crazy wave effect, and that can become very difficult even though it seems simple in hindsight. For some reason, it didn't let me click right there, which causes me to panic and take a substantial amount of damage right here that didn't seem necessary at all. Just try to combo eat and get yourself back sorted. Similar to the DT2 bosses, once you get out of rhythm, it is very easy to get stacked and take some serious damage. But if you can't keep up with everything, it can become very easy to not take very much damage at all. There was a really good variation of that one, and then I got hit by one of the flame walls. Here is the final flame effect whenever he gets down to his last 10% or so of health, where he'll just constantly spam a wave attack that covers the entirety of the room. But there is the final bit of damage. Just do your best to consistently keep DPSing while you're dodging the spots. And with that, that is hopefully how you'll be able to get your first Yama boss kill. Now that might seem like a ton of different mechanics. It might sound incredibly difficult at first. With a little bit of trial and error, you can definitely get the hang of it pretty quick. But with that, that is all you need to know about getting your first kills at Yama. That is my day one quick guide. And realistically, explaining all those mechanics, I can't believe it was probably all that quick, but hopefully you guys did find it helpful. If you did, consider dropping a like, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.